and welcome to SATV's special talk show in English, and subject is India-Pakistan tensions going on, and we have a very respectable panelist today, Munshi Faiz Ahmed, former ambassador and security analyst who has a long bird's eye views on India-Pakistan relationships from Second World War. I mean, more than 75 years. He has recent studies on that subject, and we'll be talking regarding this subject, India-Pakistan tension. Munshi Faiz Ahmed, welcome to SATV studio. I know personally you have a long study, deep study on India-Pakistan relations. After the Second World War, I mean after the division, my first question would be, with the recent escalation between India and Pakistan, what are the key factors driving the current tensions, and how do you assess the role of external powers in this ongoing conflict, sir?
Well, when we come to talk about India-Pakistan tension, it's been there for a long time. Well, the two countries have fought several wars already. One immediately after the two countries became independent, and then they had a brief war, and then following that Kashmir was divided between the two countries because of through that war, and also there was another war that created the problems in the western part of India, southwestern part of India, and Goa and other places, you know. And then of course there was this 1965 war, and then the war in 1971, which ended in liberation of Bangladesh. So these wars have been there, but if you remember, if you look at it, the wars never lasted very long. So the history of war between the two countries is like this, that they have a period of escalation, and then there is a brief war, and then somehow they try to get back from there and see if peace could be restored. But for the last many years, several decades, real peace has not returned between these two countries. And this is mainly because, I think that this is mainly because of lack of appropriate leadership at in both countries. There has not been.
I'll have a supplement question on this particular. From the Indian military side, they are giving the statements that they have hit 9 places where terrorists are living. They have been informed that terrorists are there. But from the Pakistani general side, they said India is hitting on the innocent civilian women and children. How do you define from the international media, because international media is giving us the sources of different versions and narratives? One is from Pakistan side, one is from Indian side. What is your personal assessment?
Well, we are not in a position to really judge. We have to take all the narratives with a pinch of salt, and you see, whenever there is a war, each side will find ways to justify what it is doing. What the Indians are saying, that we are not actually starting a war with Pakistan, but we are trying to hit back at the terrorists who hit us in Pahalgam. And those we have located their locations, I mean their places where they might be staying, and so those are, of course, they have their kind of information, but other people may debate or contradict that statement. But one thing is correct, that they have not been hitting Pakistani military installations. They have been going after so-called terror infrastructures.
Right.
So, but usually, you see, whenever you are trying to hit terrorists, they often disguise themselves within civilian areas. So there is always going to be civilian casualties. So you cannot be too sure about what is actually happening. But what is important is to know that war is not wanted. We have to find ways of getting rid of wars, and if we consider that, if we think that there are terrorists in the next country across the border, we should be able to talk to that country and resolve that issue, because the terrorists are not friends of any country.
Absolutely. Terrorists are
not friends of any country. Therefore, we should be able to work together.
They don't have religion.
So we should be able to work together to eliminate the terrorists, not bombing the civilians or places where we suspect the terrorists are, because always there will be lots of casualties.
Right.
What you call the what is it called? Anyways, I'll get that word later, but there will be a lot of civilian casualties which we do not want. Nobody wants them.
Agreed.
And therefore, we should be able to find a way of talking to each other.
Right, sir. Right, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, let me welcome our another panelist, Mr. Shamsul Alam Pantho. He is a very young entrepreneur. He has a very keen observation on this particular war between India and Pakistan. Welcome to the studio, sir. Before asking you a questions, I would like to give a breaking news from CNN. CNN said Defense Minister of Pakistan, Khaja Asif, has warned that India's strikes marked an invitation to expand into conflict between the neighbors, and continued, the Islamabad is trying to avoid the full escalation of war, but if India try to hit again, Pakistan will think and decide to hit back more. What do you think, as a neighboring country of India, another two neighboring country like Pakistan and India are in between wars?
Thank you so much for having me on this show, and thank you so much as well. There was a very elaborate question. Actually, this kind of escalation we were expecting for the last better half of the last 2 weeks. On the 7th night, we've seen almost a very cowardly attack between the night on Pakistani soil, and it was not only just Pakistan administered Kashmir. The President of the United States has called it a very shameful matter, and he has said that the two countries have chosen the tit for tat kind of strategy. I would say, and previously I was here with you on the Ukraine-Russia effect as well, Ukraine-Russia war. So I would say that it's they both have hostilities. Religion plays a part of the problem. However, blatantly marking certain locations in Pakistan as terror sites, terror camps, and launching attack missile strike on them is a sign of cowardice, in my opinion. Not only that, we haven't seen such a civilian casualty in this region for a while. Well, last time that has happened would be in 1971. Anyhow, loss of civilian casualty is a very big mark. It's a precursor to a very bigger war. Pakistan, of course, has commented that they will retaliate in the time of their choosing and in a place of their choosing. So it's very hard to say what are the outcomes of this war, if you would like to call it. Apart from that, I understand that Bangladesh holds a very unique position in this war between India and Pakistan. We must try to refrain from any kind of hostilities with both the nations, and to protect our borders and to protect our own civilians. Not just that, we should understand that this regional stability should be maintained in all circumstances. I'll give you an example. The two fighter jet companies that were sponsoring this war that we've seen, or the both sides have claimed, Rafale jets versus the Chinese military equipment. Based on the news of yesterday, we now know that the Rafale jet company stocks have plummeted, and the Chinese jet company has, the stocks have increased. We can understand that the military industrial complex benefits from such a war like this. And the loss of innocent lives must be addressed. Of course, the UN General Council has already said Pakistan holds all of its right to retaliate in such an attack. Of course, I'm not sure if you know, last night India has been practicing blackout drills in Amritsar and many places of Punjab.
Absolutely.
They share a border called the Wagah border with Lahore and the Punjab province, Amritsar province. So anyhow, millions of people's lives are at stake. whether this is a failure of politics or whether this is a failure of understanding between the two nations, millions of lives are at stake.
Right, sir. Right, sir. I'll come back to you again. Before I go to Munshi Faiz Ahmed, I will request our control to connect with Islamabad. A very senior journalist from Islamabad, Mr. Mateen Haidar, is supposed to join us to give the latest update of the Kashmir zones occupied by Pakistan and India. So we will be waiting to connect Mr. Mateen Haidar from Islamabad. Before that, I'd love to do a question to a diplomat. You are a seasoned diplomat, Munshi Faiz Ahmed. So my question is a diplomatic question. How effective do you think diplomatic channels are in de-escalating the situation between India and Pakistan, given the complex history of the two neighboring nuclear countries?
Diplomacy, of course, is very important, but depends a lot on the mood of the two countries that are engaged in the actual battle or war. Because if they are in a mood, in a very aggressive situation or in a very aggressive mood, then they are going to continue to fight in spite of efforts from other countries. So here the diplomacy can work in different ways. Countries around this, or countries who have influence on the two countries, can try diplomatically to convince these two countries that they should stand back and have a dialogue and find a way to move back to peace and get away from war. This is one way, one kind of diplomacy which we are mostly thinking of at this time. But then there is another kind of diplomacy which is direct diplomacy between the two countries. Even during war, the warring countries can continue to have diplomatic relations. They have not disconnected, they have not cut their diplomatic relations yet. They have not, but sometimes they do. When people are at war, they break their diplomatic relations sometimes, but here they have not done that. At least I have not heard them doing that. So they can also have diplomatic contacts between them, and you see, particularly if they are convinced that no, this is leading to something very futile, so why not let us find a way of working together and de-escalate. And that is something that also can happen. I don't say that it's going to happen immediately, but it can happen. And the other thing that I said at the beginning, that the two countries must find a way of talking to each other and engaging with each other to combat terrorism. And not only those two countries, but countries in the region and throughout. There have been so many efforts in the past where countries have worked together. Bangladesh has worked with other countries in combating terrorism, or other countries have worked with Bangladesh in combating terrorism. So the Pakistan and India can do that too, and other countries can chip in with their efforts. So that is one area where diplomacy can also help. So there are three areas where diplomacy can work right now. One is direct diplomacy between the two countries, trying to get back to some kind of a dialogue and de-escalate. The other is countries around and countries with influence with these two countries, to try and convince these countries to come to dialogue, stand back from the brink of war. And of course, this coalition against terrorism, that is another kind of diplomacy that can work in this situation as well.
Munshi Faiz Ahmed, I want to pick one question from our other panelist, Mr. Shamsul Alam Pantho, who has raised one question that the millions of people in the bordering areas are at risk right now, who are innocent women, children and boys and girls. My question will be, what happens or what takes place when diplomacy fails? In this situation, you are talking and you are offering diplomacy. Do you think practically, logically and technically both Pakistan side and Indian side are in a mood to go for table to start diplomacy?
That's the thing I started with. I talked about the mood of the two countries, and so right now I don't see that mood. But you just mentioned about a statement by the Pakistani defense minister, where there was, if I am not wrong, there was a sentence that said that if there is a further attack, then we will respond.
Exactly.
If that is
Retaliation.
the- if-
Retaliation.
If
will
that
happen.
is the correct version, then there is a scope for diplomacy. Now, if there is no further attack from India, then Pakistan does not have the excuse to continue to escalate according to that version. So, if you there are
Sir,
so many ways.
We have been able to connect Mr. Mateen Haidar, one of the senior journalists from Islamabad, who was watching and observing the war situation. Mr. Mateen Haidar, welcome to SATV, and thank you very much for your joining, for your time and for your contribution. Would you please let us
My pleasure
describe
to be
what is
connected
the
with you.
latest situation between Islamabad and New Delhi, between two Kashmirs occupied by India and occupied by Pakistan, and what is the military statements from both the countries? Mr. Mateen Haidar from Islamabad, Pakistan.
Thank you so much. First, I would like to correct that there is a Kashmir which is Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. And the term you use, Pakistani occupied Kashmir, that is not Pakistani occupied, that is called Azad Jammu and Kashmir. So AJK. And the Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir is occupied by India. And the Jammu and Kashmir is a disputed territory under United Nations resolution. And its solution is impending. India continues to defy UN resolutions on Jammu and Kashmir. So on 5th of August, 29th,
I will have one more question. It is a very flat question, because the people are living in Bangladesh, the journalists are watching the news from both the countries. Why did this attack has been important to do in such an environment, in such a situation, in such a time where South Asia was in a peaceful situation since last couple of years?
technically I would like to give a specific and to the point answer to your question. Why this attack take place? This attack, which was carried out by Indian Air Force through missile, striking 6 locations inside Pakistan. This was blatant violation of international law. And taking you back to 22nd of April, Pahalgam incident. When this incident took place, even before start of any investigation, both the Indian government and the Indian media started accusing Pakistan. So it was the day when American Vice President was visiting India. So if we see the past track record, whenever there have been high-profile visits in India, there used to be such attacks. So this Pahalgam incident was a false flag operation, and it was staged by Indian intelligence agency, and the purpose was to falsely implicate into that particular thing. You can imagine that within the 10 minutes after this particular incident, where the police station is even 6 kilometers away from the site, immediately the FIR was registered. They can speak that things were planned in advance, and the purpose was to implicate Pakistan. Purpose was to defame Pakistan. Pakistani military and political leadership offered to India. Pakistan is ready to cooperate in investigation. India did not give any response. As far as your point of diplomacy is concerned, of course, before this particular attack, the diplomacy, international diplomacy was in action. American Secretary of State called both Pakistan and India top officials, then United Nations Secretary General spoke to Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif. It also, the UN Secretary General also spoke to the Indian leadership. Despite this all diplomacy which was in action, and Pakistan was in constant in touch with China, with Saudi Arabia, with United Arab Emirates, and with Kuwait and with Turkey. And just 3 days before, Iranian Foreign Minister, on last Tuesday, Iranian Foreign Minister was also in Islamabad. And Iran also offered mediation. And Iranian Foreign Minister went back to Tehran and went from Tehran he was supposed to fly to New Delhi. So, couple of common friends of Pakistan and India, United Nations, United States, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, a number of countries were in touch. Despite diplomacy was in action, and all foreign powers were asking India not to indulge in any provocation, not to indulge in any escalation with Pakistan. But despite these all things, unprovoked attack, the attack which violated international law because civilian areas were targeted, places of worship were attacked in Bhawanpur, in Bareilly, in Azad Jammu and Kashmir. All mosques were attacked, civilians were attacked. But despite this attack, within no time, Pakistani Air Force shot down 5 of the Indian Air Force fighter jets, 3 Rafale, which India was proud of having these Rafale. 3 Rafales were shot down. One was MiG-29 and another one was Su, a Russian fighter jet. So that has exposed the Indian Air Force. And Pakistani Air Force shot down these 5 jets, and plus there was another combat drone which was also shot down. Yesterday, Pakistani military chief spokesman Lieutenant General Ahmed Sharif Chaudhry has confirmed in these all strikes, 31 innocent Pakistanis got martyred and 57 Pakistanis got injured. Now, your point was what is next and what is the current situation? Yesterday, Pakistani National Security Committee, which is the Apex Committee on National Security, met with Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif. It was also attended by Pakistan Army Chief, Air Chief Marshal, Pakistan Navy Chief, National Security Advisor, Defense Minister. Now, the National Security Committee has empowered Pakistani armed forces the right that they may choose a time of their own choice. So Pakistan reserves the right to retaliate, and that time and the location, which locations in India, inside India will be targeted. This is a military strategy. Of course, this has not been disclosed, but Pakistan has made it clear that the blood of 31 Pakistanis will be avenged. It will be definitely taken, revenge will be taken out. What is the current situation today? Security sources have confirmed that more than 12 Indian drones have been detected in different parts of Pakistan. So these drones have been shot down, and thanks God there is no heavy casualty, only few injuries. But this is another low tactics that India has resorted after miserably its air force was failed in crossing and coming into Pakistan. Indian Air Force did not come into Pakistani airspace. And as Pakistani Prime Minister and as our military spokesman has made it clear, Pakistan could have shot down more Indian fighter jets, but only those were attacked which actually carried out these attacks. So currently the situation is still tense. Taking you at the line of control. The line of control is between Azad Jammu and Kashmir and Indian illegally occupied Kashmir. Again, India resorted to unprovoked firing at the line of control, which was responded effectively by Pakistani security forces. Pakistan has destroyed a number of Indian military posts on the other side of the line of control and inflicted heavy damages, including a complete destruction of an Indian brigade headquarters at the line of control. So, at the line of control, the clashes are continuing. Overall environment in Pakistan is quite tense. Yesterday, Pakistan's top military leadership has already met and gave powers to armed forces that armed forces may select a time of their own choice to give a befitting response. So, Pakistani armed forces are, of course, professionally prepared, ready. There is a professional preparedness.
Yes, Mateen
right?
Haidar.
And this will not be disclosed. And let me my last sentence. This will not be disclosed that when Pakistan will carry out these attacks, but by concluding it, Pakistan will definitely take the revenge of the martyrdom of 31 innocent.
Yeah, very well described, Mr. Mateen Haidar. We will be going break shortly, but before that, as we know, the Pakistani media outlets and the Indian media outlets are very busy. So I would like to have two back-to-back questions to you. Both nations have strong media outlets. How do you think the media in both countries has shaped public perception of the ongoing conflict, do you think they have contributed to the tensions? This is question number one. Another question is, yesterday we were listening the statements of Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif in your parliament, and he has used some very strong words which has been criticized also in Western medias, in Indian medias, but he took his side. He talked with his people and his soldiers to be alert to face this aggression by India. What is your perspective in two particular questions, Mr. Mateen Haider?
Thank you so much. First, your question about media in Pakistan and media in India. You're also a media person, and first time you're talking to me, right? So media plays a very important role in reshaping the public opinion and sharing the true perspective to the audience, to the public. And you said that how media is contributing to this tension. I would like to say that whatever is mongering or whatever is hysteria that has been created by media. I just spoke a couple of minutes before. When Pahalgam incident took place, it was social media and Indian television channels. Exactly, it was Indian television channels which, without even realizing or without even investigation started accusing that Pakistan was behind these Pahalgam attacks. And then when you are talking about Pakistani media played one of the most responsible role in the entire situation. Pakistani media did not create any war hysteria. Pakistani media did not spread lies. Pakistani media reporting, analysis, commentary of Pahalgam incident, of whatever happened in Pakistan, national security meeting, the chief military spokesman, DGFR, Lieutenant General Ahmed Sharif briefing, Pakistani media have been clearly reporting this all. And you will also know that Al Jazeera Television, New York Times, Western media, right, which is considered as an authentic, neutral and objective media, also exposed this thing that Indian media have been spreading lies. Indian social media is of course a different thing, but television channels and newspapers in India, they have been blatantly disseminating and spreading lies. So to the tension where India and Pakistan are currently right now reached, it all the entire contribution is done by Indian media. You can imagine from the fact that Indian Prime Minister office has banned participation of Pakistani commentators and analysts in the Indian talk shows. Pakistani television channels, Pakistani YouTube channels have been banned in India. Indian television channels have been told that they may not take any analysts from Islamabad, from Pakistan. So from this all, you can imagine, and there was a leakage of a document. As Raz document got leaked through social media app that clearly talked about that when this Pahalgam incident will take place, how media will act, how things which have been planned in that particular document. On the leakage of that document, it was exposed, it was established that it was a false flag operation. Purpose was to immediately implicate, and it is not secret. Indian media has reported that leakage of document. I know the leakage of document. More than 5 top Indian defense officials, security officials have been sacked. So it is clear from that document, and that document had been talking about that the moment this incident will take place, there will be a systematic campaign right by social media, by Indian television channels against Pakistan. So it was India basically, it was Indian media basically, which was responsible for creating tension. And then it not only tension, my dear friend, because of this poisonous reporting, because of this war hysteria, because of this hate speech by the Indian media, right, the Muslims came under attack in different parts of India. There have been incidents of lynching, there have been incidents of torture. And not only in India, illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, the people who had nothing to do with this incident, even they were arrested. More than 50 homes of the Kashmiris were blown up in the same pattern the way Israel blown up homes of Palestinians in Gaza. So there is a systematic identity, similarity of this particular attack, and same on the pattern that innocent Kashmiris, those who have nothing to do, their homes are blown up. So in other parts of the India, Hindus, there have been pictures which have been quite viral on social media, on television screens as well, that how extremist Hindus resorted to torturing the Muslims. This all happened because of this hate speech that Indian television channels and Indian social media promoted. So currently, right, because of this, Muslims in across India, they are not considered themselves as safe. Although the international diplomacy have been quite active, an organization of Islamic Conference, Secretariat in Dhaka, of which Bangladesh is also a member, they have issued a very strong condemnation statement that because of an incident that took place in Pahalgam, why innocent minority Muslims are subjected to torture by Hindu extremists. So Modi, Indian Prime Minister, is taking Bangladesh to a situation where there is no return. And it is all because of one thing: political point scoring, winning election, playing card against Pakistan, implicating Pakistan in false, concocted, baseless allegation, and poisoning the minds of Indian public, Indian media, Indian voters. We have seen the moment this incident took place. Modi was addressing a rally in Bihar, right, where his party was in a critical position. So it is all happening, right? And number two, as I said, on the day American Vice President was visiting in 2002, you have seen there was a false flag operation on Indian Parliament, and Afzal Guru was arrested, who had nothing to do, right? Then you have seen when Mr. Clinton visited, there was also a terrorist incident. When Mr. American President Obama visited, they also then, Pulwama is in front of you. In Pulwama, when India carried out strikes inside in Pakistan, the very next day, right, Pakistan shot down Indian 2 fighter jets and captured one of the fighter pilots, Abhinandan. And India was desperate, right? It was sending message that Abhinandan should be released. But Pakistan, as a humanitarian gesture, right, released Abhinandan, fighter pilot, and he was giving a nice statement, and he admitted that he was offered was fantastic. But this time, if India comes into Pakistan again, and if any of its pilot is arrested, right, there will be no fantastic tea.
Mr. Mateen Haidar, Bangladesh is witnessed what they have done. I mean, what Indian Godi media has done during the changes of our regime. I had a very small question to you. Would you mind to stay a couple of minutes? We will be back after a short break, sir. Viewers, welcome back to special talk show by SATV India Pakistan tension. I know diplomats are talking with very diplomatically. I'll have a very tough question to the diplomatic panelist of our show today, Munshi Faiz Ahmed, former ambassador, and he's also a security analyst. My question will be to you, sir. Despite various agreements and ceasefire understandings between the two nations, violations continue to occur. What do you think is the root cause of these violations, and what steps can be taken to enforce a long-lasting ceasefire between two nuclear powerful countries, India and Pakistan?
Short answer to that question is that treaties are made to be broken and to be violated. That's what we see every time. There are agreements between countries, you know that there is an agreement when there is a breach of the agreement. So, this is not abnormal. The other thing is, why do people breach agreements and have this kind of aggression against each other? This is very common knowledge that I think our other discussant had mentioned about the military industrial complex. That is one of the most important factors that helps to create conflicts and wars. All conflicts do not become a war, but conflicts are always an excuse for supply or sale of more military equipments. And so, you buy Rafales, you lose a few Rafales, you buy more. Then you see that the Chinese jet fighters are doing well, so you start buying more. So, any conflict gives rise to a situation where people are looking for more weapons and equipments, military equipments. So, this one group is very important, and they are there everywhere. Not only big countries, but small countries also have. They do not produce, but they have the security establishment which is responsible for ensuring security, and they prefer to have conflicts from time to time, so that their importance, that they are important people, the government must listen to them. They continue to have some influence only when there is a threat or actual conflict.
You have explained very, very well. I'll come back to
another point that needs to be very mentioned, because we have not mentioned that. That is that politicians are also major factors in such conflicts. Why? Because in order to get popularity, increase their popularity in the voters, among the voters, they create all kinds of conflicts and also capitalize on it. There's another thing that I want to say, it's very important, that we should not be allowing this platform to be used for one side or the other. We should be careful that we are able to put forward the message of peace and that dialogue.
I pretty understand, and you smartly described that how electoral business push the leaders to come into war. As Pakistani media outlets and media professionals are very busy, I will come back to Shamsul Alam Pant 2 minutes later. I will have the last question to Mateen Haidar from Islamabad. Do you think that international activities to influence the ceasefire for both the nations has already started, or war is a business? We have to believe it in 21st century, in 2025. Mr. Mateen Haidar from Islamabad.
Well, this is a very interesting question, that war is a business. War is globally, no doubt, war is globally a business. And that is in front of you, how you are witnessing the Ukraine war, how in the past you have witnessed many, many other wars, Iraq war, and then Afghanistan war, and then Iran-Iraq war, and many wars in the past in different parts. But this war is definitely a different one between India and Pakistan. So whenever there have been any attack at the line of control between Azad Jammu and Kashmir and India military occupied Jammu and Kashmir, that has been due to the unprovoked actions of India. Number one, whatever is happening inside in occupied Jammu and Kashmir, Indian occupied, that is indigenous The people of Kashmir themselves have risen. They themselves have waged a struggle, and this struggle, which is justified under United, a country which is a territory which is disputed under UN resolution. People have every right to wage a struggle. So the second thing that, of course, how the ceasefire could be due to the international effort. Right, currently there is, of course, as I told you, first India carried out strike. Pakistani Air Force shot down their fighter jet. Now the latest development is Pakistan's Army Media Wing, Inter-Services Public Relations, few minutes before have confirmed that India is resorted to drone strikes inside in Pakistan. In some areas of Pakistan, Pakistani security forces have successfully shot down drones, and these drones were manned. This is another tactic by India. So all efforts for the peace, right, it depends upon India, how India will behave. Pakistan, as I told you earlier, Pakistani leadership has made it clear that it will not escalate any war. But if escalation is done from the Indian side, Pakistan will give a befitting response, and that happened. Escalation was done from the Indian side. Now, specifically, international diplomacy is definitely in action. Chinese are in action. Of course, Pakistani Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister, Mr. Dar, is in constant in touch. Yesterday, Turkish President spoke to Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif. And as I said, that last week, American Secretary of State spoke to Pakistani official. And it has also been confirmed that India and Pakistan National Security Advisors also made a contact. So, whatever India did, now Pakistan reserves the right to retaliate, to respond. And as you said, ceasefire or peace or anything like that, that all depends upon Indian behavior. And further, another point, we were talking to the analyst sitting in the studio, that how conflicts could be resolved between Pakistan and India. It's all because India, if India agrees to sit on negotiation table
Mateen Haidar,
with
as
Pakistan,
we are running out of time, Mateen Haidar, thank you very, very much. I really, really appreciate your contribution to SATV, and we'll be connecting you soon. Thank you very, very much for joining with us at SATV studio. I want to pick one speculation from Mateen Haidar, who is covering India-Pakistan war, and I want to do this question to Mr. Shamsul Alam Pantho. You know, both countries have nuclear weapons, and while the concept of nuclear deterrence has kept full-scale war day by day, and do you think the risk of miscalculation or an accidental escalation is higher in the current climate because diplomacy has collapsed?
Thank you for your question. Actually, I would want to understand this Kashmir issue, a region that's claimed by two different countries, Pakistan and India. How we can relate this with other nations of this planet. We've seen the Ukraine-Russia war, it's been in the third year. We've seen China continuously trying to claim Taiwan as its country. We have seen the war in Israel versus Palestine. So we can proudly say that border disputes is a part of this global war situation. However, as far as I know, history should play a very big role in understanding today's situation. We've seen the nuclear bombings of two different cities in Japan, and it hasn't left any kind of good image for historians alike or for people who are working with diplomacy all around the world. Everyone is now armed with nuclear weapons.
Right.
Almost every nation. They use it as a way to deter any kind of opposition against their own sovereignty. I would say it is not wise to use such a mass destructive weapon against the civilian population. And of course, it has war and war-like events have a drastic effect in the markets of both countries. You can see the multiple aviation planes have been affected because of this 2-3 day skirmish. Tourism, Kashmir is such a scenic place. However, nor India nor Pakistan being able to promote what a beautiful scenery that Kashmir has.
So you are expecting the economic reshape is also going to take place in South Asia because of this conflict. I'll have to come for a long time to the diplomats, because when war happens, only the diplomats, they create the path to bring both the sides on the table and to go for a long-term solutions. My question will be to Mr. Munshi Faiz Ahmed. In your opinion, what is the best way forward of both countries to achieve lasting peace? Are there any realistic pathways that could lead the de-escalation, and are we trapped in a cycle of tension?
Thank you for the question, but before I go into it, just a little correction. Taiwan has always been a part of China. Everybody agrees, everybody who has a relationship with China has to accept that, and Taiwan is a breakaway province in that sense. So, I think we should correct that China is not trying to claim Taiwan, it is part of China. Anyways, now coming back to the question, lasting peace is something that is not very visible right now, even in the distance. So, what we are trying to see is that first there should be an immediate ceasefire. Countries will be able to, perhaps countries, if they try hard enough, they will be able to bring sense back to the two warring parties and make them accept a ceasefire and then start some kind of a dialogue. But here the issue is terrorism, if we on which this round of violence started. So, they have to talk about terrorism, and terrorism is something that is all over the world, and it has to be taken care of by everybody together, working together, and that needs to be done. But first a ceasefire and then a dialogue between the two countries and with the help of other countries, and there should be a new approach to combating terrorism internationally. That is something that I think we should be thinking about.
Sir, I fully agree you. As you are a diplomat and a very seasoned diplomat, I will have a supplement question to you. What do you think, what role do you think the international community, especially global powers like United States of America, United Nations, China, Russia, EU can play in mediating or encouraging peaceful dialogue between India and Pakistan? Shamsul Alam Panto, I will have the same questions to you as well after the ending of the response from Munshi Faiz Ahmed.
All these countries that you mentioned, they are all asking for restraint to the both the sides. They are asking them to restrain themselves, and the first thing that they would like to get is the ceasefire, but not all countries will be mediators. Everybody will encourage the two sides, but there may be one or two countries that will actually work as mediators, and the United States has a good position because it has similar kind of relations with the two countries. It has good relations with India, it has also got good relations with Pakistan, and more importantly, the Americans are very interested in making sure that they have full control over the nuclear weapons that Pakistan holds, and therefore they would like to persuade Pakistan to stand back. So, I think the United States is in the best position to try to broker some kind of a ceasefire.
Good and
but
clear.
Other countries are not really all that well placed.
Some country will try to take the advantages of
like
this.
if you talk about China, China has already declared that it supports, it will support Pakistan if there is an attack on them.
I said I will have the same questions to Shamsul Alam Panto. What do you think?
To me, I would also say I agree with Mr. Munshi here regarding de-escalation, regarding that countries must come together to resolve. Of course, US would be very well positioned in order to mediate between the two countries, given that they both have, all the parties have such a very lovely communication. We would try our very best to keep our nation outside of war. We would also try to see there is a certain de-escalation, and that all the economies that are relevant here can flourish in the future. And we should avoid all kinds of civilian casualties in any country.
I think I would like to add something here. That is, what would be the role of Bangladesh in all this. You see,
It's very important.
this is, I think, something that we were missing out in our discussion. What is very important is for Bangladesh to remain completely neutral,
Yes.
not provoke any side to do anything, and accept that they should all restrain themselves and get back into a form of some kind of a dialogue. So this is what we should be doing, and since we are not in a position to mediate, we must understand that. So let's not talk in those terms, but we should be able to encourage our other partners. We have so many partners in cooperation. We can ask them all to try and help bring these two countries back from the brink of war and try to get some kind of a peace. And once there is a temporary peace, there is always a dream that we can extend it.
I really appreciate, on behalf of the whole team at SATV, the technical team, the reporting team, the newsroom, to both of my very respected guests, Shamsul Alam Pantho, young entrepreneur, and Munshi Faiz Ahmed, very seasoned diplomat and security analyst. I also want to pay a very lovely thanks to our brother Mateen Haidar from Islamabad, Pakistan. Ladies and gentlemen, this was our show regarding India-Pakistan tensions today. Tomorrow we will see you again with hope that ceasefire is going to be in discussion table and both the countries will be calm and quiet to de-escalate the situation, because we all want peace at the end of the day. Thank you very much.
Thank you.